Good morning, everyone. Good
Good
morning,
morning.
Joseph. How are you?
I'm good. You finally caught me on a Friday.
I know that's weird. Like I knew that it was unlikely when I emailed you, but I figured I'd give it a shot, and it worked out.
No,
So did
lucky
you
you.
have to
My
binge it?
ankles are killing me. Yes, I
Oh
did.
no! Oh
And
no!
in fact, I'm actually. Here's what happened. I started from episode 8 just because the title grabbed me. Intolerance is extinction. So I had to start right there with the three part finale,
Mm-hmm.
and then I went back and did the rest. I'm actually finishing episode 7 right now.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
Yeah,
So
I'm
you
just
went in
breezing through it.
reverse order,
Well, I had to start there. Just because of the name. I had to because I know enough about X-Men to get the basic
right?
idea. So I figured that was a good start. Even though this story distinctly, definitely something that would have been better if start from the top. But just because of the title of it, I had to start from
It is a
eight,
good
9, and 10.
title.
No, and I felt like with a title like that, I felt like that was the finale, and that was going to summarize the series for me. So I thought that was a great place to start. Like whether I started at episode 8 or episode 1 was probably going to make no difference.
Well, that makes sense. All right, let's. How's the audio sound for everyone? I always forget to ask, and we usually check, but I think it sounds fine. I mean,
It sounds good to us, but then I listen to the replay once in a while, and it's not balanced. It sounds like
yeah.
I'm in like a room behind you or something. Like I'm
I
like I'm yelling at you from across the street. Yeah,
I
guys, how
also
how do we sound? Do we
realized
sound like we're in the same room? What happened?
I also realized like not that long ago that my mic has a volume thing on it, and you can turn it up or down. So I think it probably should sound pretty balanced. But yes, good morning, everyone. We're going to talk about X-Men 97. We're going to go through the episodes we're going to talk about. Did you watch the original show?
I did. I It's been a long time. I don't remember, and I don't think I watched all of it.
Right.
No, but yeah, I did. Actually, X-Men is the reason I lost interest in superheroes. The reason being there are so many
What?
different mutants. It's because there are so many different mutants, and there are only so many you really like. So when they keep cramming more mutants on screen, I lost patience because there are only so many I want to. So I'm forced to put up with a bunch of people I don't care about.
I mean, I get that, but the X-Men are like the I don't know. I think there's an argument to be made whether or not like when it comes to that Marvel universe, not cinematic, but like Marvel in general, that X-Men is like quite a bit better than the Avengers. Like I feel like they should have been leading the charge when it came to the MCU after maybe
Yeah.
like Infinity Game in or I guess it was Endgame. I said Infinity Game, whatever. Um
Well, I
instead
think with
of
the Avengers, it was easier to uh, to implement Robert Downey Jr. since he is
right,
Iron Man. So I think
right.
that's why they had to do that. They could have just put Iron Man and the X-Men if they really wanted, but it felt like I think it was a more natural fit just to go with the Avengers just for that reason. Just 'cause
I
he
also
owns
think there
Iron Man.
was licensing issues at the time, so they had
Like
to
what?
wait for it. When it was the Brian Singer, who does that? Sony? I don't
Hmm.
remember. The Brian Singer X-Men, whoever owns that was had the rights to X-Men at the time. So I think there was issues with that. I don't
Hmm.
remember exactly what it was, and I know they're still
Yeah.
having a little bit of issues with like the Hulk name. That's why Hulk hasn't had his own movie.
Oh, I see. That makes sense. So then the licenses had to expire. So they had to do the Avengers then.
Yeah, and now that's why they can do the Fantastic Four because that was another one that they had. Oh, it was Fox. Thank you, Tavia. I don't know why it's Sony. Um, but now they're going to be able to hopefully adapt them. Like I feel like that's probably all that can save the MCU at this point.
The MCU doesn't really need saving to most people. It needs saving to you because you understand the source material. But I've been saying this for years, guys. The big movies, they're not really that interested in the source material. There's a look,
That's so
okay,
stupid.
there's a look to it that they can use. And I agree, but what you got right here is probably better than anything you were ever going to get on screen. So the story you got here, first off, this series was amazing.
Yeah.
it got crazy quick. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. But you got a story this good from an animated show. You're not going to get anything close to that on the big screen because you already got it here.
Yeah.
There's
And
nothing. Well, there's nothing you can do to anything you do. If you're going to put it on a movie from here, it's probably going to cancel out or confuse the two stories. It just wouldn't make sense. So if you're going to
no,
do
and I
something,
mean in the 90s, so they had the X-Men 94 or whatever. I think it ended in 94. And that actually got so popular it spawned off the Spider-Man show, the what was that, Iron Man show, and a Fantastic Four. I think there was actually a Silver Surfer one for a while. So like this could lead to other stuff in the animated form, and I'm at this point I'm completely fine with it because I've lost a lot of faith in the live action stuff, right? I think a lot of people have.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I think if
I
they
think
go
fans are
animated,
right. Yeah, for the longtime fans, the animated series are probably going to be more complete. They're going to be more satisfying.
plus like
Like
think
this.
about it. Think about how many cameos were in this show alone. And we'll talk about them individually, but think about how many cameos were in this show. That would be a lot. Like I don't know. I don't know if it would be possible. Like when it comes to like building the world that they live in, I don't know. I mean, I guess it would with the right people, but I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so before we get into a too detailed of a X-Men breakdown, I have a little rant, and I'm a
Okay.
little annoyed. So,
All right.
do you have any? You probably don't. Do you
What's
have
up?
any idea who Falling in Reverse is?
I hate them.
You hate them?
Yeah.
You have terrible taste in music, don't you?
No. You
Yeah,
do. You make
that's
us
fair.
listen to them.
No. Okay, so here's the thing. I have been a Falling in Reverse fan for fucking years, right? Um like ever since they like going back to when they worked with Black Veil Brides and they're going on tour with Black Veil Brides, and the only problem with that is the lead singer is he's a wonderful person. I learned my lesson. Here, guys. So he's been kicked off of like TikTok a lot for, like being a little bit political. He's got a lot of beefs in the music industry. Like he goes after Chris Motionless for Motionless and White, and I hate that shit. And what drives me more crazy than any and all of that is the fact that not every single person, but you know how we get on and kind of tease at Eric July for going after his detractors all the time.
Mm-hmm.
He's the Eric July of music, right? Like anybody that says anything about his music, mind you, he's getting
So his music is overpriced, and he rarely makes albums. But the few projects he does stick out in your mind, and they're annoying.
no, like I like Falling in Reverse. That's the thing. But every time somebody's like, I don't like Falling in Reverse, Ronnie Radke has no talent, he makes a TikTok and like, oh yeah, Uno reverse card, or it's just something. So he made one the other day. And mind you, I know I have no filter. I know I'm probably the bad person in this situation. But he compared somebody that was critical of his music to Nazis.
So he's a puss. That's really what
Yeah.
it comes down to, right? You jump straight to that and try to shield yourself from any future criticism.
Yeah, I guess. Like it reminded me of like, when what was it? When Republicans were saying because they didn't take their vaccine, they were gonna wear that like star, right? Like it
Right.
reminded me of that. So I was like, you really just did that, like kind of losing a little bit of respect here. And he fucking blocked me. Fucking asshole. I'm so pissed. Like, it pisses me off because I've supported him for like not supported him. Like I don't mean like I mean I listen to his music, right? For a long time. And he's the Eric July. We are going to now crown him the Eric July of fucking music because he can't take. Like, I understand I shouldn't have been such a fucking bitch, but that's me. Like, I just said I lost respect for you. Like,
No,
is
if
that
he's a
really that
bigger
mean?
bitch. Well, no, hold on. If he's a bigger bitch, then this is on him.
Like, I've had people say that comment, and I'm generally like, why? What can you explain? Like, I don't feel like that was that mean.
I
But I
don't know,
went to
neither.
look. For his TikTok yesterday. And I can't, and it's so weird because TikTok is different than YouTube, right? So if I block somebody on YouTube, they can still see my content. They just can't leave comments. On TikTok, you can't actually see anything. Like, they completely block you out.
You can't find the channel either.
No, you can't even look at it. You can't look at it as anything he uploads.
So even if you were to search it, then it just doesn't show up.
It doesn't show up at all. Fucking
What a punk.
Pussy. Like, you don't have to reply to everybody that hates you. You don't. It's not that serious, you guys. It is not that serious. You are going, when you make a music video and you get like 5 million views in the first 2 days, maybe focus on the people that are propping you up instead of the very small minority that are going, I don't like this song, because music is
Maybe he'll
subjective.
write a song about you.
Oh my God.
Didn't Eric just write a song about his haters
He
too?
wrote a song. Yeah, he wrote a song about his haters. Yep. Like, it's wild to me because, like, it's not even the first time I've like commented, right? Like, commented about his new song, stuff that I liked. I leave one negative comment because you compare people somebody that didn't like your music to a Nazi, and you go full-fledged bitch. And dude's going on tour like soon.
Should
Like,
change
it's
the
just
name to Full-Fledged Bitch.
like, I mean, it would be fitting, but
Yeah, they sucked before this. I just want you to know that.
no, you're
Yeah,
telling
the
me
band
you've
always
never
sucked.
heard. Wait, you've never heard a song by them that you actually like?
No,
Hold on, what kind of music do you listen to then?
not this. No. So let's get on with this. You're gonna help me refresh my memory at the same time because I did binge everything yesterday, and like I said, it was actually a great show. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. It did get crazy really quick, and I'm honestly disappointed that it had to end in 10 episodes.
Well, it's already been
I
picked up
wanted
for
more.
season 2.
Well, yeah, I saw that. It's just they left they left you hanging. So they left you hanging. They left you wanting more.
But
So
they
that's why it
gave
was.
you a
They gave us
few
a lot.
really good hints
Oh
at
yeah,
where they're going.
they did. Yeah, they did a great job with this.
It
But
sucks though,
I hope I
animation
can't.
takes forever.
I think it depends.
I mean,
But
that's
they
what
jump right on it.
Invincible tried to say. Did you ever finish
I don't know
that?
what. Yeah, I
That
have
was good.
different thoughts about that one. Okay, I like it, but I'm less interested in Omni Man at this point, and much more interested in Mark.
I get that. I get that. Punk, thank you so much. Good morning. He says, hey, Joseph, Tristan, and chat. Love season 1 of X-Men 97. Looking forward to season 2. Yeah, same. And I think it's a huge shame that they actually fired the showrunner.
Why?
Now, I don't know the exact reason, right? But his name's Bew DeMaio. Basically, the rumor was because he had previously had an OnlyFans.
All right,
Yeah.
that I guess you have to. Like Disney doesn't own, Disney doesn't own part of that. That's always been a thing with Disney. They have their name on everything, just like all these little LLCs, and they've supposedly been investing in porn for years, for decades.
I also feel like it could be like, remember when they fired James Gunn? Also, thank you for the super sticker, Punk. You remember when they fired James Gunn, only to like a year later realize they needed him to finish off Guardians and brought him back on?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
Something
so
about
I
a tweet,
wonder if
right?
it's that. Yeah, because he had like really gross tweets, right? So I wonder if it's that kind of a situation where they might bring him back after realizing how much people like this show or how well it did. I don't know. Maybe. Previously, he still has an OnlyFans. Okay. See, I don't know. But like he did a great job with this show, so I don't judge. I don't
No,
judge.
I wouldn't either. I would never would have guessed. I never. Well, he does, shouldn't need the OnlyFans money. He did a great job with this,
Right?
right?
And he's still like engaging with it and like talking about different things that he liked within it and through his social media and stuff. So like he's still doing free press. Like I don't know, if I was fired I'd be kind of pissed. I'd
Maybe,
be beyond pissed.
or he could be reapplying already, just because he's not going to shut up about.
Yeah, that's
He's
true.
not going to. This is his baby. This is precious to him. You know, he took part in something that was excellent. There's something, like I
Yeah,
said, you're
definitely.
never going to see a story like this unfold on the big screen. This isn't what big screens are for anymore. Stories like this, it's just not going to happen. This a big screen is for big explosions and bright lights.
For
That's
theatrics.
that's all it is. It's not for the kind of storytelling. Yeah, and I started paying attention to this when Patty Jenkins commented on this. She said that dramas and storytelling have been going to streaming services, and then all the big blockbusters go to the
Right.
big screen. So the ones with less substance, and that's held true ever since she said that. And what's funny is that was the year that Wonder Woman 1984 was on the way, and that movie had no substance whatsoever.
Stop it. It wasn't that
Don't give
bad.
me it. It was worse than that bad. That movie was dismal.
Oh my god.
Go
Wait,
ahead,
hold on.
play.
Okay, so let's talk about, let's start at the beginning, right? So
All
I
right.
I actually watched the first two episodes, and I'm kind of glad you started the way you did with Tolerance is Extinction. Cause I started the first two episodes and I wasn't uber impressed. Like I was like, okay, like it's fine, it's kind of boring. I was also watching Dead Boy Detectives at the time, which I
Mm,
still hold true to this day, is much better. You guys should check it out. But they're both good in different ways, right? Um, so I ended
mhm,
up going back and watching it all right before episode 10 came out. And the first two episodes were definitely a lot of setup. I feel like a
mhm,
lot of it still, like, one thing I definitely noticed about this show was they knew not only the source, like there was a lot of Easter eggs to comics, right? But there was also a lot of Easter eggs to the original series. There was a lot of like really cool stuff that they did with that. Like in one moment there was like they'll put like covers in the background, or I think in the last episode they had, Easter eggs to the original actors that played Magneto. Like I love when people do that kind of shit. Like I don't
I thought
always
later
find
on they
them.
had an Easter egg to one of the arcade games.
Oh, I didn't catch that one.
Well, the entire episode with Jubilee and Rodrigo was his name? Oh no,
Oh,
Roberto. No,
Roberto.
Roberto. Anyway, those two together in the arcade game. You
Oh,
remember
so there
that?
was,
Yeah, that whole thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's a great
that
episode.
yeah, everything in the background was modeled after. Basically, they took backgrounds from an actual game from the 90s.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
Wait,
the
hold
whole
on.
thing with
What's with the
Mojo.
Gambit hate? Do people not like Gambit?
Nope.
Seriously.
Hmm.
I thought Gambit was everybody's favorite.
I was waiting for him to die. Like, imagine my
Oh,
satisfaction when I'm watching episode 8 and they have,
hold on.
somebody. What?
I really think
Hold
that
on.
people like Gambit.
You have lots of problems. We don't have to start there if you don't
Gambit
want
was
to.
like, okay, hold on. Easily, easily the best male character in this game. I mean, fucking game. In this show.
I
Like,
have never in
easily.
my life heard anybody talk up Gambit over Wolverine. More people
What?
like Cyclops than they like
You just want to hear him say
Gambit.
bub. Okay, bub. Like
Bub.
Wolverine didn't even get like the limelight. So, well, you watched the last
Yeah.
3 episodes first, but
Yeah,
I mean,
that's fine because that's also something I noticed watching this. It can compare to the '90s show because the '90s show didn't have the depth of storytelling that you're seeing here. It's slowly unfolded over time, but the emphasis, especially early on in the '90s series, was Wolverine because he fights. It was
I
supposed to
mean,
be
yeah.
yeah, but it was supposed to be an action series for kids, something to entertain the first thing. They needed violence first thing in the morning.
I mean, absolutely. That's factual. But um that's surprising to me. Rogue and Gambit have always been my favorite.
And I have clues as to why you like Gambit. I feel like you wait outside the county jail to meet men because
Oh
that's
my
exactly
god.
the guy this.
I
That's
was a
exactly the
little
kind of guy he is.
disappointed he had a weirdo mullet, but that outfit totally rocking the 90s look.
No, men generally did not wear cutoff shirts,
I don't
like unless
care.
they
It
were
looked
gay.
awesome. It looked awesome. Oh my god. You are insane. I love Gambit. Anyways, so did you feel like when you were watching the first episode, right? And I almost felt like I don't know how to say this nicely.
Hmm.
I felt like a chud watching the first episode. I felt like an anti SJW watching the first episode because I rolled my eyes 3 or 4 times when Roberto was like, "I'm one of the good ones."
No,
I
I
kind
know
of died.
first off, as much as I enjoyed the series, it had very serious issues with voice acting.
Huh?
It had
Did
very
you hear
serious. Some
Harley
of this,
Quinn in Rogue?
yes,
Okay, it wasn't
and
just
that
me.
was another thing. Also, actually, I felt like I was hearing it more so in Jean Grey because Jean Grey's voice was horrible in this entire show. Jean was horrible. Rogue was actually, yeah, Rogue was worse.
Like
And
I
Wolverine,
remember loving her voice. And now I
well,
was listening back, and I don't know if it's just because like have watched so much Harley Quinn or her, you know what I mean? Like
mm,
video games and stuff. I'm just more attuned to that. But like I heard Harley a lot in that.
I was irritated by it. So that's to answer your question. Yes.
Yeah. I see. I didn't notice any other voice acting issues besides me hearing that. I don't think.
Well,
I think maybe a couple times, but nothing like over the top bad.
but that is the original voice actor for Wolverine, isn't it?
Yeah, I think a couple of them are
You,
original ones. Yeah, I think Rogue is too, and
you
that makes
can
me sad
hear,
because I remember loving her.
which no, she didn't sound good at all. You can tell in the act, you can hear some age in their voices. You can hear some struggle
Yeah,
just
yeah,
for them to
some
say
things.
say certain lines. Yeah.
Yeah, there was
Um.
definitely something there that threw me off with Rogue, and again, I that doesn't mean she's still not my favorite character. It just felt like something, like it didn't click
Mhm.
every time she spoke, and like I will say overall, the sheer amount of disappointment I had in Rogue this entire series was not what I expected. Like, I've talked about Rogue on this channel for a long time, how X-Men got me into comics, how Rogue was my favorite character because she couldn't touch anyone. And I just thought that was so fucking cool. And I thought that, yeah, that would be ideal, right? Like now when I'm like 7, like a young kid. But now looking at Rogue's arc throughout this entire series, she went from, you know, hot for Gambit to hot for Magneto to dumping Gambit in the most
Yeah.
it was good character development, but she literally dumped him and then went and danced with Magneto and kissed him like right in front of like the biggest thought move I've ever seen. Like,
I
tell
thought
me
that
that's
was.
not fucked up.
And he just sat and watched. Yeah, I don't
I
know why they thought that was
know.
necessary. Like he
Like,
couldn't just turn the corner. He, yeah, it's like he sat right in the perfect spot in front of Eric the whole time, just while she went down the stairs. I thought that whole scene was just horribly written. Honestly, I
yeah,
think that's like the one thing that just didn't belong in here.
like I just felt like it was so like I know I know some people don't like the idea of Rogue and Magneto together. I actually don't hate it because they were together in Savage X-Men. They actually do a little homage to that when Sinister goes to Gambit and he sees them together in the room. I love that. But like I don't hate them. I think it's weird, right? There's a huge age difference, but I understand because she can't touch. She can finally feel the touch of a person. Um
Some women are like
that
that. Some
scene
women love those
was
huge age
straight out
gaps.
of that was just that felt like a mean girl move, right? Like that
Yeah.
it was terrible. Why would you do that? Why I don't know. Obviously, she has
No,
like
I
no
agree. The whole
loyalty
thing
or
didn't
love.
fit in.
Yeah.
And not just that, but then there was that kiss, and then she backed off, saying that like Remy said, some things are deeper than skin. So it
Yeah,
looked
and
like
then
she went to kiss him to dump him. So she dumped both of them like the worst way, and then that's just before Genosha went under fire.
okay, but had Genosha not went under fire and she went back to Gambit, like he should have been like, "Fuck you!" Like
Hmm.
what? There was
Well,
no reason for any of that.
well, there's no reason for Gambit, but the good news is he died on
Mm.
screen. So I think that thinking about it now, it's better he dies on screen than just not appear at all.
Oh,
So
oh
that
my God.
we have that moment of satisfaction. But what do you really want to talk about? Because that's later in the series. We're starting from the bottom. We're
Okay, I
starting from
started and I got off track here. So I
right.
definitely feel like this did such a good job with so like I mentioned in the very first scene, right? Roberto da Costa, Sunspot. He says, "I'm one of the good ones." Like there was a lot of political undertones when it comes to I know the X-Men has always had that, right? But you also see a lot of like the idea of turning against, using fear as a motivator, not understanding, people with differences aren't necessarily the enemy. I feel like it was so primed to what we're living in today that it could be again just like I feel like I'm saying this all over again like too many times, but it's what the X-Men has always been. They just gave it a modern twist.
I sense people were going to draw those parallels between the fictional conflict and modern conflict, and I hope they don't because in the
Hmm?
fictional conflict, you don't actually. We think about that. The fictional conflict, you're not exactly sure who started it. The series never makes clear that this is the fault of humans or the fault of mutants. It just talks about
Oh my
escalating
God,
tension.
were we watching the same show?
Yes.
It is. Hold on. They absolutely make clear that this is the fears of humans.
Well, they're telling Eric's
Not
story. That's Eric's story. Because remember, yeah, Eric's story starts with the encampment and soldiers marching in and so on. That is, yeah, it starts with Eric's story, but that's not the same as saying this is the whole story. Because remember, it's not like Eric is the first mutant. You know that
okay.
just
I
following the
see what
series. It's
you're
not like he's
saying.
the first. Yeah, this is just starting with Eric. And Eric's, yeah, like I said, Eric's story shows humans coming after him, especially in the divided times that he was in.
Right.
That, but the story doesn't actually make clear historically like how this started. It just shows in the rising conflict. Yeah, starting with Eric, and he is remember he's the key to all of this. If there is no Eric, there's no X-Men.
They're right.
It's
Yeah,
not
no,
it's
you're
not Xavier.
absolutely right.
Right. So anyway, because they don't make it clear, and now people today if they're looking at this fictional conflict and drawing parallels to modern conflict, that strikes me as a problem because these people don't
Oh,
even understand who started the fictional conflict. So think about this: if the fictional conflict is supposedly a reflection of modern conflict, and you don't know who started the fictional conflict, how do you know who started your conflict?
okay. So here's
What are you
also
absorbing from
what
that?
I think you're missing a little bit is that in and maybe it would have benefited from some sort of recap or some sort of like Screen Crush did a really good video. All 78 issues or all 78 episodes in 35 minutes. Like a brief recap of the previous season. Because I do think that they make relatively clear in the first set, the show from the 90s, that that it wasn't obviously it's not all of humanity. People have empathy and compassion for people no matter what, and that's kind of why Sebastian wants to, turn them into robots. But I think I can see what you're saying, and it may have benefited from a little bit more of a backstory when it came to the original conflict, because you've got Mr. Sinister, right?
Yeah.
But unless you saw the original series, you're not going to know. I mean, they give you a little bit of exposition as to why, but they don't tell you his backstory is actually in the 92 series. So there's a lot of
remember the
context
characters.
missing.
Yeah, that was a problem for me because I remember the characters, but I don't remember how it ended.
I
'Cause
mean,
I know this.
basically, he stole DNA from all different mutants, and that basically made him invincible. Invincible? Immortal. Immortal was the word I was looking for.
Right. Okay.
But
Yeah.
I definitely feel like there is some context missing, and I feel like they show the extremes at least. So like they showed the Executioner, which had a really, like, I love his design, right? But the Executioner was originally like more of a white supremacist stand-in. And they kind of go down that avenue, but without you knowing that, would you have picked up on that?
Honestly, I didn't. No.
So maybe I
no,
am
I
thinking
didn't
about
see.
it too much.
I think you are thinking about it too much. I think that's. I think that's. I see what you're implying. Like you're talking about his attack on the UN on the in episode 2, right?
Yes. Yep. With when he takes not Rogue, Storm's powers away.
Yeah, yeah. Briefly, I saw that parallel, but at the same time, I wasn't consciously watching this and trying to compare modern conflict with the fictional one. I was absorbing this story to hear what this story actually had to say. There were some things that took me out of that illusion because some of the comments were just so blatant. Like in, I believe it's episode 9 or 10. It's in the not the flashback. You remember Xavier's in Eric's mind.
Yes, that was great.
And Eric was talking about humans, how they're all the best humans. They're the best tribe, the best faith, and they're even the best victims.
I loved that though.
At that in that moment right there, it did take me out of the illusion a bit to
I
make
wondered.
the show seem more self-aware, or just more like the show is just overall aware. Like
I mean,
you know what I
but
mean?
in
There's
a bad
awareness
way?
in the show. Go ahead.
No, did it take you out in a bad way, or did it seem like it
No,
was?
no, it was no, it just took me out for a second, but I didn't sense overall that the series was a reflection of modern times. I don't think necessarily, but not directly. But I can see people looking to the essence of conflict because, like I said, the story does not actually make clear who is responsible. It doesn't show humans responsible for mutant suffering or mutants responsible for human suffering. What you see mostly, actually, the only thing you really see are stories collectively, people blaming others. So humans blame mutants, mutants blame humans. You're seeing different stories that basically just start adding up over the series. And what you are seeing, yes, is a problem. You're seeing the problem of groupings. You're seeing groups blaming groups, and then you're seeing groups within groups blaming other groups. So you are still seeing that essence. You're seeing that people are blaming groups instead of individuals, which would have solved many problems if you had just blamed the people. In this story, people and mutants who actually caused the problems. Yet you could have solved a lot of this. But of course, that doesn't make a story. The story is about how the conflict escalates and the consequences.
Right.
So I get that, but for purposes of the story, yeah, it's highlighting the core of all these problems. Where you're looking at the conflict is because of groupings. This is something I've been speaking out about ever since I started speaking online. People go straight to groupings instead of blaming individuals actually responsible for the real problems. And at some point, people lose interest in blaming individuals. Now they only want to blame groups, and that's the story
Right.
that we're in here.
No, and I see that. I just there's I also have this issue, right? So as somebody that reviews things, I do tend to sometimes, maybe just a little bit, maybe a lot, look into things and see things that aren't there, right? We all are able to do that. Like I know some of these things were put in, but I also feel like maybe I look into stuff too much. I wish I could sit back and not look at it through an eye of a reviewer. Instead, just look at it as an eye of a fan. And I think that's why I was so like turned off from the show in the beginning, was because I saw a little bit of what they were trying to do, like with Roberto, right? Um, they were definitely making him, I thought, and this might come off as controversial, so I apologize ahead of time. I thought they were trying to make him like the Black Republican, right?
Really? No, I don't see it. You're gonna have to explain that one. That wasn't my impression at all.
Like, you never seen those people online. And I know I've sent you videos
Mhm.
from the amazing Lucas before.
Yeah,
And
he's
like
he's
he
a
always
shithead.
will, yeah, he's but like where people will say, if they're a traitor to their skin color, a traitor to their type, they basically, being a Republican and Black is sort of antithetical to what you're trying to do. Like, you see this kind of talk a lot, and I've even defended. I don't personally care for that kind of talk, but like,
Mhm.
what was it? It was somebody from that fandom initiative called like Eric July, like an Uncle Tom or something like that. That's kind of what I thought
Mhm.
they were going for. And I was like, I really don't know if you should go down this story. They didn't too much. I'm not saying they did it too much, but I thought that's where they were going. Yes, it's absolutely because he said I'm one of the good ones. And that took me out of it immediately. I'm like, I see what
Let's
you're
see.
doing.
And maybe here's the thing. I see that because it seems like there were some statements that like I said they take you out of the illusion a bit. The big one for me being the one from Eric when they said they're even
Mm-hmm.
the best victims, and haven't I've been saying for years that people will play a victim.
Oh, absolutely.
They will consciously play a victim, which it took me a while to really grasp what was going on. The that first came to mind when Matt Groening commented. First off, The Simpsons got sued because of Apu. Supposedly, there was a kid getting bullied at school because of Apu.
Oh,
Just the kid,
you
yeah,
can
kids
sue.
at school.
What?
Supposedly that's what yeah. Supposedly that's what happened. Or I think I'm wrong if I said sued. I think that was just my assumption because the the story goes that Apu was removed from the show. He was going to be written out. Or no,
Mm-hmm.
the voice actor was going to change. Wrong. They changed the
I
voice
remember
actor. They
that.
took that away from Hank Azaria, who has been doing the show for at least 30 years. He's been in the show
Yeah.
since the beginning. He voiced Apu since the beginning. So for over
Right.
30 years, the same voice, no issue. And then one day they get told that some kid got bullied based on Apu. So now they're just going to change the voice actor, and this is supposed to solve a problem. I have no idea what the hell. Like, I didn't hear anything of a lawsuit. I thought it was a lawsuit, or maybe it could have been a settlement. So we just don't
Right.
know any details. But Matt Groening commented on that. He said, "I think we're in a time where people like to pretend that they're offended."
Yeah.
And that was something that didn't register to me right away. I couldn't understand why until I started learning more about civil liability and the political climate and how people make themselves into victims to make themselves more important. And remember that X-Men is all about groupings. So
Right.
people, when Eric is saying people are even the best victims, then that was one of the things that took me out of the illusion for a moment because that then I was expecting more commentary on a modern. At that point, I was expecting immediate social commentary I was
Right.
expecting them
And
to
that's
talk about
exactly
something
how
not
I
in the
felt
show.
about that first episode. And you know
Yeah.
what?
So I see what you mean.
To their credit, they didn't lean into that. They just mentioned it and
Mm-mm.
moved on, right? Like I fully expected like that kind of a story arc, and it actually, went to Sunspot being more accepted by the X-Men and finally, going to his powers and bringing them out. But I that's that moment took me out of it, and I was like, oh, okay, we're doing this. We're doing this, guys.
Yeah, they did a few things a few times that and then there were a few times I thought they would go forward with it more, but I felt like yeah, they did that for that controversy. I think that's something they wanted. They didn't want to lean on it. I think that was a strategy going into this. They wanted to take you out of the illusion a minute, just for a moment, and then like bring you back into it with little hints like that. Like when it was later on, when Sinister said he knew Joseph Mengele, who those who don't know, he was a Nazi. He was the head of Nazi research, and he was the head of the the experiments that were done on prisoners during in the Nazi encampments.
Mm-hmm. See, I didn't even
And
catch that one.
yeah, most people. Well, if you list people who listen to Slayer know that stuff because Slayer took a lot of heat for
Fucking
writing.
Slayer.
Well, because the song "Angel of Death" is named after Joseph Mengele, and that
Okay.
he was called the Angel of Death. And they took a lot of heat because they wrote a song about a Nazi scientist. AKA, it's four Mexicans writing a song about a Nazi scientist, and they
Right.
got called They got called skinhead. Like skinhead was the word at the time. White supremacists. Yes, basically. So they got accused of being racist for that. And then Tom Araya gets on the he goes into was it like Guitar World, I think, did the interview. They said we're four Mexicans. We got nothing to do with white people. But anyway, yeah, with him for a Sinister saying stuff like Mengele could have been so much more, and I felt like that was a statement purposely put in to provoke more sensitive thoughts because stuff like that because it takes people out of the illusion of the show just for a minute. Start comparing,
Yeah. That's actually a
it provokes
really good
people.
way to do it though. Right? It
Yeah.
makes you think if you're thinking about a show after it's over and going, okay, well, what were they trying to do with this or what with that? Like that means it resonates with you in some way or another. And
Mhm.
I actually I kind of as much as I kind of at the beginning was like, okay. I think it's smart. After getting into it a couple episodes, like the show just took off. It really, really did. And I think, what did you think of the Jean Grey, Madeline Pryor thing?
That was good. They got it. There's the thing because of the way the show ended, or the way the season ended. Because it's inconclusive at this point, because it is to be continued. We got to wait for season two. I'm intrigued. Okay, it grabbed me for
I
what it's worth because it
loved
does have.
loved when what's her name? Goblin Queen?
Yeah, that's stupid.
Uh yeah, it's a really dumb name. But
Yeah,
I want to bring up a
I
picture.
laughed.
But come on. Tell me this outfit wasn't incredible. Let me show a picture.
It
Like
wasn't incredible.
that is
You can't
going
wear
to
something like that and then call yourself Goblin Queen.
like that's way too hot to be called Goblin Queen, right? Like that's
Right.
beautiful. Like they had her like fully thighs out. Everyone was worried about Rogue's butt when they should have been worried about Goblin Queen. Like she looked incredible.
They barely
I
showed her
loved
from
it.
behind anyway.
I
Yeah, and
mean,
she
I
has a
saw.
tape.
I said
Look at
thighs.
you. I
I said
saw blood.
thighs. I saw
Season
blood,
two is for
guys.
2026. Is that true?
Oh my god.
If they're
Twice
aiming for
so far.
2026, that's way too long.
Way too long. That's gonna kill some momentum.
Mm.
I
Well, I
mean,
don't. Well, but anyway, but back to this. I like that because here's the thing. I know people, especially today, you're going to watch X-Men, and like I said, people are drawing parallels to modern conflict with the fictional conflict. They really shouldn't. And stuff. Here's the thing. I would have been the last to do it anyway because I've always been a science fiction fan. So things like changing a gender or the race of somebody has never never bothered me because, especially like I used to watch when not just Outer Limits. What was that other one called? Twilight Zone.
Mhm.
And Twilight Zone used to do stuff like that too. You take somebody like the average man. I didn't think of it as gender politics or anything like that, but you take a man, make him a woman for a day, and then he suffers. It's, stuff like that.
Right.
He sees struggle. He sees struggle because he didn't actually have privilege, that he didn't have the privilege anymore. He became
Right.
somebody else, and people responded to him differently. So stuff like that has always been the kind of entertainment I go for. So when in modern entertainment where skin colors are changing and stuff like that, then it never bothered me immediately. I didn't see a political take on it right away.
Until it
Like,
became like a
well,
normal
well,
thing.
well. Now I agree because you will never see a black character become white.
No, that just won't happen.
Right. So there is political sensitivity to it. That much is highlighted. That much is now made clear.
But
And
we
yeah,
did go
bet
through
if you do.
years of whitewashing. So I mean,
Well,
there's that.
I like I said, I never think of it like that. I just think of it as different. I just look at the story told. Does it even in this political climate? I just look at the story told. Does it make sense? Is it teaching me something? Is it or not?
Yeah. No, I
That's all
think
I'm
that's
really
great.
interested in.
I just wish I could see. That's my problem with looking at a show through, the lens of a reviewer or something like that. I get into that mode where I'm like, oh, this could be this could be that. Like it's a bad habit. But I totally get what you mean. I really liked Goblin Queen. I almost wish they would have done more with her. It felt very quick. Like this is one thing that I think the show could have benefited from too, because all the episodes were, you have a whole ensemble, a massive amount of characters here, and you've got 10 30-minute episodes. Like if we had 10-hour episodes, they could have done more with something like that. But I get with their end game and what they were going for. But it just seemed like it was a very quick arc. And then Madeline and Jean went separate ways. And now they're two different people, but kind of not. Like they don't know whose memories are which. And that was kind of left up in the air again. Like,
Is that borrowed from an existing story arc?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. Well, don't spoil that because I didn't obviously I didn't know, so I want to see how they take it into season two. But yeah, again, as a science fiction fan, that's interesting because now you get to see the interpersonal relationships come out more. So this was a great move by the writers because there's always been somewhat of a love triangle, which I always thought it was more so Logan as a hopeless
Right.
romantic. That's how I always thought of it. But then they gave him, by doing this, they gave him an outlet. They gave him a way to express himself in these situations that
Oh my God.
wouldn't yeah, wouldn't have been possible because one of the genes, apparently the clone, is having a kid with Scott,
Right.
and so then the real one comes back, but she's conflicted. Now apparently she has Logan to fall on, to fall back on it since she doesn't have Scott. Um, well, hold on. First of all, did they actually say how the clone was made? Because I missed that.
Yes. Mr. Sinister took
It
DNA.
was Sinister. Okay,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. He said I can remember that just before he made the Goblin Queen.
Yep.
Oh, I remember that now. Okay. Well, anyway, I think that's a great move because, like I said, it gives that individual a way to speak on something that he otherwise wouldn't have. Because if he's talking to Morph sucks.
Oh, you don't like more? What?
Well, no, he's a dweeb.
Oh,
He's
but
an idiot.
that's his like pull, right? Like he is a dork. That's what makes him funny.
I think he's just kind of. I don't think he was well written. I know what they meant to do, and I just don't think they did a good job with it.
Okay, so did you have an issue when they changed or retconned him? So that was a big deal before the show started too, was that they retconned Morph into being non-binary. Now,
Mhm.
did I miss it, or was that never addressed?
There was one time he was referred to as they.
That's
There
it.
was I only saw one, and I think it was like episode. Like, it's somewhere in the finale. It's somewhere in 8, 9, or 10. It was once. And I probably it was Jubilee who said it, that she was mad at him for something.
Okay,
But that
so
was it. Yeah, for
not
the
even.
roast. Well, most of the time, yeah, they really did just call him Morph, and I think that's why you missed it. Because
Yeah,
I remember that announcement actually as I was after Jubilee said that. Because the first time she said it, when she said they, I hate that shit because they is plural. So I'm anticipating
I
when you
mean,
say
they's not
they, I'm
always plural. Are we gonna?
it's
Are we gonna?
it's in practice
If
it's
you don't know
plural.
somebody's, okay, yes, but if you don't know somebody's pronouns, you can say,
Well, you remember
did they go to the
before this
store?
nonsense within the last 5 years, that nonsense became kind of known on the internet. Okay, 6 years ago, that wasn't real.
I
No one
understand what
said
you're saying.
they,
Yeah.
right? No, so anyway, no one said they as in a subjective sense like that. You said they because you thought you were talking about more than one person. So I still remember I don't do that. Okay, I'm in Southern California, and a lot of this liberal propaganda doesn't really exist. You hear about more conservative media than you do on the streets out in California.
That's
A
crazy to
lot
me
more.
because the way that it's always framed is like it's super liberal there.
Well, it is true. Most of the voting population, chiefly it comes from the Los Angeles County, which is down here, and San Francisco County, which is Northern California. That's most of the voting population in California. So yeah, you can go to areas where I guess yeah, rainbow flags are more common, but
Hmm.
that's basically it. These conversations about subjective pronouns aren't real. Like you hear them in the news. You turn off the news and you just don't hear it. So it's not like it's something I practice. I wouldn't anyway if it was common. So going into this, when that happened, that's why when I hear they, I was
See,
expecting
but
more than one
I
person.
I don't care that Morph is. I brought this up because I don't think anyone cared that Morph is non-binary for real. Because it really wasn't. It didn't change storytelling. He was just a good character, according to some. According to some. But I don't like. You can. I understand what you're saying, but you're also missing the point. Like, if you don't know someone's gender, right? You can say they like. If somebody told you they ran into somebody at the store, you'd say, well, what were they doing, right? Because you don't know if it's male or female. So I don't mind.
Yeah.
I've never been one to mind if somebody says use they. I don't care.
No, I know it's true. People have, but I'm talking about I'm talking about that part where people publicly declare that they is the proper way to refer to he or she. Like they has somehow replaced he or she, even though we had no complications figuring out Morph has a male voice, a male body.
Right.
We had no complications figuring that out. So again, and it only happened once. But yeah, in that one time, Jubilee said they. Okay, that threw
Okay.
me off because I was anticipating more than one. Then I remembered the morph controversy.
Okay. See, I didn't
That's it.
even notice it, but I do think the way that they did Morph as a non binary character was much better than some of the representation we've seen before, right? Because a lot of times, I think I want to say that Doctor Who is dealing with this. I think I saw a clip. Um, but a lot of times when they use pronouns, there's like a lecture behind it, right? Like if they use like in sentence with, Jubilee or whoever using they, there would be like some lecture attached. A lot of
See, that's
times in media. This was just cool because he was just Morph. Nobody fucking cared. Right? Like that's
yeah.
how you write a non-binary character, in my opinion. If that's what you want to do, don't make them feel odd or unaccepted. Nobody ever felt like that was Morph. Like honestly, Morph was super into Wolverine. Like he was definitely in love with him, right? Like I'm not the only one that saw that. Oh yes, I am
I
definitely
think
not.
okay, there had to be something I missed because I was texting somebody at the time. We're talking to somebody at the same time. There had to be something I missed because I remember when Morph went into the shower and I think he thought that was Logan. And then remember his left hand
Yeah. He
extracted
got all
claws and said, "Do I have to
excited.
get do I have to do your back again?" As the claws came out, and at first I thought that was malicious. I
Oh,
thought because
I thought he was
remember
flirting.
I that didn't seem flirtatious to me. Fuck no. Somebody came at you with a knife. You want me to get your back?
Okay, yeah,
That's
that's
what.
fair. Okay, but he was
Yeah.
definitely flirting when he turned into Sabretooth and brought him beer because he was sad. I mean, but that could also be a bro moment, right? You don't know.
hmm Well, now here's the thing: as they're saying it in the chat, you're saying it here. Now it registered like that. But you remember also at the time something was going on. There was a possibility of an intruder. So when Morph is going into
Yes.
the shower, he's seeing these hairy ass legs. I thought he knew who it was, and that's why I thought he extracted claws. I thought he was trying to stab somebody. I didn't think he was trying to be a pal in the shower. I didn't expect that. The way they delivered that, yeah, that didn't register with me the same way.
What about when he turned into Jean? I think he did it twice. Once in the nightclub, and then once when Logan was unconscious
Well, I remember he did that to taunt Logan
in
a
the
little
club.
bit because yeah, because Morph is obviously a bit of an asshole. He's a bigger asshole than Logan, and he was taught because remember Logan's not happy. Logan just watched Jean. He's been watching as Jean is having a baby with Scott, and he still hates Scott. He still loves Jean, but he was watching that all unfold in front of him. He wasn't happy, and Morph was taunting him. So Morph is clearly a dick.
So the last scene with Morph turning into Jean, where he says something
Oh,
along
when
the
he was
lines of "Hold on, I
okay,
love
I
you."
was remembering.
Okay.
Okay, I'm
Um.
remembering that now because I'm. Did you want to read that first?
Yeah, I just said he did say. Brian said the show creator confirmed that it was Morph's true feelings about Wolverine,
All right, but see, the show's creator had to say that. I didn't get that. I thought the reason he did that is because Logan was not responding.
and he
Because
was trying
remember,
to encourage his friend.
yeah, he was trying. That's what they do to trauma patients. Sometimes they try and make you hear something familiar to stimulate the brain so you come out of it. Well, not trauma patients, but if you're in intensive care, and that's what I thought was going on.
Okay. And I
I
get it.
didn't
Like
know.
I could see them going like I could see them just being buddies. I did not catch on it at all until that
Mhm.
scene when I was like, "Oh wait, hold on a second." Like I didn't realize it, but looking back now, I can see like the little bit of hints. I yeah, Mo's right. It served dual purpose. I think it did a good job of doing that, but also I
Yeah, and
do feel like a lot of people are going to be like, they just reminded me of Bros because it wasn't
all right.
super obvious. Unless I'm
Well,
just
no,
really
I
bad at
didn't.
picking up on that.
No, I didn't pick up on that. I didn't pick up on homosexual tendencies. I thought Morph was just being an idiot and just doing something he thought was going to work. I thought he was. Yeah, I thought he just did that because he thought it would work. I didn't catch
I ship it.
any other hint
Now
with
I
it.
ship
Yeah.
it.
All right. So what should we move on to
Oh
next?
my god,
We've
this is
established
what I
Morph
wanted
as a
to
dick.
mention. No, he's not. This is what I want to mention. What did they? Okay, I think Beau DeMaio did a good job. I think he has a terrible idea, a little bit of a terrible idea of women. Not only did we see the rogue part, but when Jean came back, she kissed Logan. Like,
Mhm. Yeah, there's a few things that need explaining. Like I said, I was talking to someone at the same time, and I was trying to binge, so I didn't keep going back and forward. But like I said, there are some things that I don't think was that explained in depth because these are things I know because I knew the characters.
right, exactly.
Okay,
But if
so then
you
I'm not
didn't,
wrong. They didn't make this clear.
no, like she just like, oh yay, kisses in the water, and then never brought up again. Like I get that love triangle has been there, right, and that's been something that's ingrained in the comics and the shows and the animated stuff. I get that, but it was so like. It was like that, not quite as bad, but like the rogue scene where it just felt so out of place and unnecessary, especially when she's dealing with like she's already dealing with thinking she's doesn't know whether she's Jean Grey or Madeline Pryor, which memories are hers. She's dealing with the stuff with Cyclops, and then she's like, I'm gonna kiss Wolverine. Okay.
Right. Yeah, like I said, they didn't set that up. I think a lot of things are going to go. They have to go unexplained right now because they only got 10 episodes, and you
Yeah.
notice they crammed a lot of stuff into 10 episodes.
Oh, they definitely did, and I think they did a good job with it. There was just a couple moments like that where I was like, oh, I get you're trying to humanize these characters and say, they have flaws and stuff, but really, I don't know. It was fucking weird. It was fucking weird. I
What?
hated it.
Because well, thinking about it now, because remember I started with the finale first, so thinking about it now, they probably it those episodes were a lot more organized than the other seven.
They
The
were.
other seven it
Yeah.
felt like yeah they crammed about as much as possible, possibly because they knew they only had 10 episodes, so they took better care of the finale than they did the rest.
Yeah.
And that's something that right there that one that's not in the fair, but the tensions between Logan and Jean, that's just something that's probably going to have to unfold in season 2.
Yeah.
So I don't think, yeah, I don't think that one's going to sufficiently explained yet for that reason. I think that's something they had to leave alone a little bit because they had to make room for everything else because they did put a lot in this show.
Yeah.
From like, I really wish they would have delved more into Eric's history. And it's not like
You
they
know what? I
didn't do it
agree.
anyway. Right, and it's not like they didn't do it anyway, but especially when and I know it's on Disney Plus, so there were some things that they wanted to limit, but that's also what frustrated me because now I got to think of what they would have done instead if it weren't on Disney Plus. And this could have been they could have gone into a bit more details, and that's something I would have actually liked to see a more specific highlight if they wanted to talk about this conflict. Did they? Is it something that was ever established in X-Men? Did they ever actually show specifically it was humans started it with mutants, not mutants starting with humans? Because the way I've always gathered it is everybody's always had different stories. The people said mutants came after my son became a mutant, so I couldn't stand it because he's not human, obviously. And then you have some people who said mutants came after my son. You see that I've always seen different stories from different people unfold over the series.
I mean, I never
Right.
thought of it really too in depth, but I always thought it was humans. And I guess they did go into I forgot, they did go into his backstory in the old show, which makes sense why they wouldn't include it. I just think they definitely were showing like, his numbers on his hand a lot. Like they could have done a little bit with that. Um I did love how they did. So one thing that I think they were hinting at, when Xavier was in uh, Eric's mind and how
Mhm.
they did the waters, I thought that was really, really good. Like the emotional, as he got more emotional, it rose and started to come in, and I think they were hinting at, if I remember correctly, and it's been a long time, Onslaught. This happened once in the comics, and it basically erased their mind, and Onslaught came out. So I don't know if they were hinting at bringing in Onslaught for season 2, but that wouldn't make sense with the other stuff. Like,
I remember the name being mentioned though. Somewhere in the finale, I remember hearing Onslaught, and I started looking
did
for
you?
it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So then maybe there was more than that.
yeah. I think it was a conversation with Bastion.
Okay.
I
So
remember
that
the
would
name
make sense.
Onslaught being mentioned.
What did you think of Bastion as a villain?
He was a good villain. He was. At the end, he needed to be written better. I thought some of his lines were kind of cheesy, but
Mhm.
that's fine. I'm gonna leave that much alone because overall, like the show, overall the show delivered really well. A story about conflicts arising when people just don't know how to solve the problem. That's all I gathered out of it. Um that's all I was looking into. Like when you mentioned this to me, you wanted to talk about the politics going into it. I wasn't looking that deep. I wanted to make sure I was understanding the story actually being told.
Right.
Like I said, people should not be drawing parallels between real life conflict and fictional conflict, especially in this because this story does not make clear who started it. Because I feel like that's a problem. If you live a life where you're engaged in this conflict and you can't even figure out who started the problem, and you miss that point. To me, that's a concern. Somebody that can live a life of conflict and it doesn't actually resolute on who started it. Um, those are, but those are the kinds of things that I want to see. I want to see expressed more. For Bastion, though, I think he was interesting. First off, is he canonical?
Yes.
He is something that's always existed. Okay. Well,
Yep.
yeah, I like his take on it. How he was gonna escalate things further. I like that he took things further than even Eric thought he was going. Thought he was going to do. Eric was all and the story between Charles Xavier and Magneto, how they disagreed about how coexistence was actually going to work. Was it ultimately going to be war, or was there such thing as a peaceful conflict, even if it was a messy conflict, like what he was explaining to when he was explaining to you remember he infiltrated a bunch of minds and he had people believing they were in a classroom.
Yes.
And how funny is it to see Gladiator in the desk? That shit was funny.
Right? Gladiator
Yeah,
is such a big dude. Like the most. Yeah, I love it.
but yeah, that was the kind of stuff that kept you engaged when Professor X is talking about. Um, he says, "I'm going to tell you a secret. A coexistence is messy." So that established his vision. That helps establish his vision. We obviously know Eric's, and now next to Bastion, he wants to take it a step further and say he's saying screw you to everybody.
Yeah.
He wants
Well,
to make
Bastion
something.
is a mutant, though. Like he was another kind of
Mhm.
he. It, I hate to use this word because of what I said earlier, but he's basically a self-hating mutant. Like, not only does he's Nimrod and Master Mold, like love child, right? So then that means when he saw his mother also hate mutants, he became like emboldened to be the one to take out all mutants, even though at the end of the day, if all mutants were gone or enslaved, he would be hated too. And I think that's a lot why they did the more like robotic. They had everybody taken over because with their free mind they would be free to, go against him or to be compassionate or to be empathetic. Like I
Yeah,
liked Bastion a lot, especially in what was it, the last two episodes. His design incredible.
with him, I would have liked to see. I would like to see him explain better because, like I said, he was a good spit in the face to both perspectives from Charles and Eric.
Hmm.
Because he saw evolution differently. He saw something further than that. Some kind of, I believe that's what he said. Hybrids of some sort. Remember? Because remember, I binged
Yeah,
this yesterday.
yeah,
Yeah, yes, yeah. So I wanted to see that explore because I wanted to see different people react to that because you already have a conflict where people don't even know how it necessarily began. We just know it's always been escalating. So people are taking sides in the conflict from there, and then you have somebody like him that knows how to take a bad thing further, make it even worse.
yeah.
But we didn't get to actually. We didn't. Here's the thing: we didn't actually hear how other people have to react to him. We the audience get to know he's the bad guy, and that's it. That's kind of basically it. We know what he wants. He's effectively a bad guy to both to humans and mutants.
Right,
But we're not
exactly.
actually seeing. Like, did you didn't, but the original Soylent Green. Everybody knows about the crappy movie.
Wait, the original
You
what?
so, Soylent Green. Everyone knows it was a novel too, but everybody
I
knows
have
the
no
movie.
idea what that is.
Soylent Green was the movie about people being made into food for other people.
What the fuck kind of movies do you
It,
watch, Joseph?
it's this is science fiction. This is the good stuff. Okay, I'm gonna shorten it for you. It's a
Okay.
dystopian future. It's overpopulated. Most people live on the streets. Most food is in the form of a supplement. The most two most popular fo- two most popular foods in the beginning, they come from the Soylent Corporation. They have two flavors, Soylent Red and Soylent Yellow, but they're running out of ideas and they're running out of resources because overpopulation is draining resources.
Right.
So they got an idea. They're going to start killing people. They're going to start grinding them up in the supplements, and they're going to make this new variety, Soylent Green.
Oh my
And
god.
then it was found out Soylent Green is people. So you will type that in. I'm surprised you haven't even heard that line before. Soylent Green is people. It was actually from the 70s, not the 80s. My mistake. But when there was a guy who broke the news that Soylent Green is people, and you actually, instead of overwhelming alarm, you actually got mixed reactions, because then people start wondering, well, we got to eat, don't we?
Oh
But
my
like, who's
God.
next? But then who's next? Which one of us next? Well, which one of us
Right.
deserves it? It goes back and forward like that a little bit. Okay, and that's something I would have liked to see out of Bastion's presence. You introduce him and see if you can get that kind of conversation going. Well, maybe they have something else in mind. And then I have no problems with the direction they're going with the show. Like I said, the way it ended, it left me wanting more. When it said to be continued, I was drained.
I know.
So they delivered it well. They knew what they wanted. It was a great delivery overall, start to finish, I think. So, like I said, yeah, some of the voice acting stunk. Some of the characters needed better lines, but overall, it was a great look at this conflict. It was a great look at the, for all intents and purposes, mutants are people. And it was a
Right.
great look at how people handle a conflict when they don't even know how to solve a problem.
And when they use fear as the driving motivator to a lot of what they're doing. One thing I found very weird, and maybe it's just me, but like when they were doing the Bastion part where people started coming at them, like I understand in my logical brain knows that the X-Men have to defend themselves. But at the same time, I'm like, they showed specifically like a family, right? And two of them, the parents, were part of Bastion's army. So my brain is going, they're killing normal people. Like, I understand they have to defend themselves, but they were literally like killing citizens.
Mm-hmm. Well, and yeah, and that's the nature of these conflicts. Unfortunately, things escalate to a point where people do start dying, and it is. Oh, this is the kind of stuff for the audience they get to reflect on. They get to ask themselves if it's justified, and that's the kind of stuff that keeps audiences coming back. Because
Yeah, and I get that, but like I also feel like these people were brainwashed, right? They were not, yeah, so they were living a normal life up until they got their, I don't know if he said on a signal. Because I know when it came to Goblin Queen, they said that Ladybird thing to make her active. But they set out the signal, and I'm like, these are just normal citizens, right?
Yeah.
I know they were
Yeah, they had
turned.
no
I
idea what
know
was going
that,
on.
but they didn't remember any of this. And the X-Men are sitting there like decapitating them. I'm like, okay, all right, you're just killing
Yeah.
grandma and grandpa over there. All right.
Yeah, Wolverine's cutting everybody into pieces.
Yes.
It's finally his time to shine.
And then
And then,
finally, when Xavier comes back, he's like, no, we got to fix this, not kill these people. And they're like, oh, yeah. Like, did you guys not realize that before? Come on now.
and what I see in that, I see that people were taken by blindness in the prejudice. Because remember, again, like I said, I think I got to say it again. The conflict is not. The conflict is something that has just reached a height to the point where people they don't understand the life without it. So they can't even conceive. They can't even conceive how it necessarily began. So they're all in a point where they can't conceive a life without it, and now they're being used.
Right.
Now they're being used at this point to go after mutants, and now their lives are on the line. That's it.
And
It's just
over.
right. Yeah, they're basically Wolverine killed a bunch of people that otherwise he would not have had to kill.
Exactly. And Mo says they were taken advantage of. These people hate mutants. But hate is also something that's, it's learned, right? So had these people not, been part of Bastion's army, it could have been something that they learned tolerance or they learned to not hate these people. So that's where I'm like, okay, well, I get they have to defend themselves. That's the best way I can look at it, because if not, like, what's your other alternative besides throwing Magneto in the mix, which they
Well,
did, but
kids, something like that is a good move for the story because it keeps the tragedy real.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah, you can't just like just bring in the Sentinel robots. At some point, it just feels like an action movie. You know, the classic Sentinels. We know what they were made for, but like look at the attack on Genosha. The timing was different. Or excuse me, the setting was different. The context of it was different. There was a tragedy was set up. It's not like in the first series where you remember the Sentinels come in and everybody just stabs them and blows them up and they look like a hero. They weren't used for hero moments like that. It was used to in furtherance of a tragedy of
And
in this case attempted genocide, all extending from prejudice that again nobody can really prejudice that people live by because they no longer know what life is like without it. And some of them never knew because this is generations. This story takes place generations into that conflict.
right. And then that was another moment that kind of not that felt very self-aware when it came to President Kelly. And it was after the Genosha part. And he was talking to, I think, Cyclops, and they had to not give any more aid to Genosha. And he was like, I can't be seen giving any more aid to mutants because of my polling numbers. That felt like the most real thing I have heard from a like even if it's a fake politician. Like that was so fucking real. Like that is how our politicians think. I thought that
Mm.
was really good. Like getting
You know, what
somebody else in there would have fucked them over too. But no matter what, they were fucked.
what really would have helped this story is somebody in there somewhere, and somebody maybe let's say in the intro instead of the actual intro we got where it just suddenly jumps into you have Roberto kidnapped and they explain everything in the warehouse what's going on
Mm-hmm.
10,000 per mutant and stuff like that. That's a jump too far ahead. Somebody should have made clear this story. This story is basically this is what happens when we act on a solution to prejudice that we don't understand.
And that
That's what should
solution
have
being
been.
extinction or genocide.
Well, all the violence, everything from from people turned against their will, people turned into soldiers against their will, and people, man, and again, people died. The hero killed innocent people,
Yeah.
and they glorified it a little bit because it's Wolverine. 'Cause, why not? He was happy to
Right.
do it. He was just, yeah, he was happy to do it, and
He
they
was
they didn't
pining
actually
to
touch
do
on that.
it.
Yeah, but that's also a thing, and then thinking about it now, maybe that's something that the writers and maybe that's something that the show's team really wanted initially. Maybe Disney said there's something wrong with it.
Like, I think it would have landed better had there been even a mere moment of like guilt, right? Like, there was no, I mean, Xavier came in and he was like, we gotta not do this, right? But there was no moment of like, hey, I might have killed somebody's child. I might have killed, you know what I mean? There was no guilt associated with who they
No,
killed.
no, they were just really trying not to die. Did they really? Did they regenerate? I missed that. I think there were
I
just
don't,
so too many of them.
I don't, they very well could have, which would also feel like they weren't human anymore, too, if that were possible. But, there was one moment of Wolverine's regeneration where I thought was like, when did Magneto pull his whole skeleton out or did he just like fuck with the skeleton?
It based on the holes in his body, it seems like he took. Well, at least he would have taken the shell, but that also depends. Like, did he break the shell? Did he break the adamantium shell to get it out, or did he? Because he looks put together, so I don't know. It's kind of weird. I don't know if he broke the shell or if he, because if not, then he would have taken all of Logan's bones with him.
Right. I was like, okay, well, Wolverine's dead. In the next episode, he's in a coma. I'm like, bitch, how do you heal from having your
Right, because
skeleton
yeah,
removed?
because I know canonically, I know this is something that Magneto did. He took the shell off, and that's how I think that's how we, the reader, found out that the metal skeleton is actually just a shell. Like so his claws were
Right.
actually bones. Right, right.
But did they address
I
how?
know
I don't think they
no, they
did.
really didn't. No, I think it was episode 9 ends with, because remember Logan stabbed him. He stabs Eric, and Eric reaches back. He forced the claws back in, and then he just started. You hear Xavier say, "Don't do this," and then it's
Yep.
not the most graphic, but yeah, you could see pieces come out of the body.
And then he said, what was it, the brave die first or something? And I remember that line from the original show, Magneto saying it. So I love callbacks like that. And then there was a couple of times, like, just because this is such nostalgia bait, I know that's why. But like the to me, my X-Men, to me has always been like I got chills when in the first episode where Cyclops said it. I'm like, that's so fucking cool. Though I hate Cyclops. He's like the worst character, but
No, I think he sucks too.
yeah, like he's super annoying. But like I loved those moments like that. But so in the last episode, was he unconscious then the whole time?
Yeah, he was basically
So
in a
when they
coma.
disappeared, he was okay.
Yeah, so that's why, like I said, when when Morph took on the form of Jean Grey, I thought he was just trying to get Logan out of a coma. So all the other stuff that we were talking about that some of the audience cleared up for us, I didn't
Mhm.
catch that right away. I just really
Yeah,
thought Morph was an idiot, first of all. So I just thought that was a natural idiot move.
no, and I could see how that could be missed because I like I look for stuff, that might be within the show, and I missed it until the Jean Grey part. So I mean, I get it. Gary, thank you so much. I just watched a Johnny Cage movie. I like that one chick when she licks her ear. I was like, what the fuck? But I think I've learned about a new fetish. Oh my god, Gary, you are out of control. Also, Johnny Cage movie, super good. Um, was it? I don't know what Shiki means. I know there was Serena and Ashra in there.
No, I
Um,
didn't watch it. I try not to spend too much money on entertainment. Now that video
uh,
games are going to $80 a pop, I'm
oh
I'm
my god, right?
protesting anything. No,
I
I'm
mean,
about to become a fucking hermit. They
fucking
can't cancel
sail the
my
high
internet.
seas.
Right.
You have
Um.
Wi-Fi from fucking McDonald's. It's fine. You're gonna be okay.
Right. But yeah,
That is a good movie
overall the
though.
show. Because when it comes to prejudice, stuff like that, the way I grew up. Here's the thing. When you for Latinos, especially when I was growing up, there was a lot of anti-gang talk going on.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, it came with risk. You can look this up. You can Google this. I think there are at least 6 or 7 moms have been publicly executed just for speaking out on gangs out in California.
Oh my
Right?
goodness.
And that was just in the 90s. Maybe one or two in the late 80s, but that's the kind of stuff that was going on when I was growing up. And the kind of stuff that gets the kid. First off, a lot of them are raised into it. Some of them
Right.
are fucked
Absolutely.
from day one. And that there was importance coming from my dad because where he was from, he would tell you that we saw everybody, no matter how white, no matter how black, you all just said Puerto Rican. You didn't. There were no. It's not like today with American politics. There's a if a Latino is black, they have to say Afro Latino. There's no distinction. They don't do that in Puerto Rico. They don't separate it. That
Right.
segregation is mainly U.S. politics. That's not where Dad grew up. So speeches against that kind of mentality that enables that segregation and that prejudice, that was important for my dad to give to me. So that's the kind of stuff that I grew up with, and some of my friends, yeah, they got the same conversations or similar. They were all Mexican. I'm the only Puerto Rican family in my neighborhood. Okay, all the other brown folk, they were all Mexican, and yeah, we all basically got the same talk. Okay, we all basically got the same talk, but some of them still fell into it anyway. And there's heart and soul to that problem. It was a cultural problem, but chiefly from what I gathered, because mostly when I was growing up, they're mainly Catholic. Even today, most Latinos are still Catholic, even if they're converting to other faiths. or they're just
Right.
not going to church anymore. But more so mainly because this was before the Catholic Church scandals. This would be even before 2005 when that stuff was really public.
Right.
So so anyway, people were still practicing, and there was a big problem that a lot of these people, they were soft-hearted, and forgiveness is a big thing for them. So when people in gangs say, okay, yeah, they do their crimes, they serve hard time in prison, they come out, and a lot of these people don't want to believe that you're going to be evil forever.
Right.
A lot of these guys come out of prison. They come out of prison with a religion now. Sometimes they are Catholic or other Christian, and they talk up this huge game. They say, yeah, we're changed. We want to change. We want to be one of the good ones now. And unfortunately, oftentimes it's a lie, and that's something that has it's eaten people from within, especially in families, because it's already one of your family members, and then he comes back out of prison. He says, "No, I want to change," and he never changed. He never
Right.
changed. It's just bad things that were getting worse all the time. And from my dad, he would he made sure I understood that my skin color didn't make me stand out. Okay, I've joked about the benefits of my skin color. That's just me being a smartass. But before I was a smartass, I listened to Dad. So he wanted me to know. Okay,
There was a before.
there was a before. I really wasn't always like this, but there were days where I wasn't such a smartass. But yeah, he told me your skin color. That's just who you are. That's it. There's nothing special about it. There's no reason to see anybody different because of how they look, and that's why he leaned so heavily on his background and in his upbringing. Because like I said, where he came from, everybody was the same color. Because in the Caribbean, especially Puerto Rico and Cuba, they're everywhere. They're Spanish, they're African, all kinds of stuff. And actually, that for at one point, Puerto Ricans spoke Hebrew before they spoke Spanish. So it's something else to think about. So that was stuff that always resonated with me, and it also frustrated me because I watched friends change because they did start getting into gangs or just
Right.
overall just for one reason or another, they just started becoming dicks, and they just all forgot those talks that they were getting growing up that were supposed to keep them out of these problems. And it definitely wasn't all of them.
So my
It's
guess
not like
is, bye Tavia. My guess is like they're clearly showing two sides when it comes to this. If you had to pick one between Magneto and Charles, who do you think would have been in the right? Just I can guess from what you just said, but I'm curious.
no. The thing is, I don't see. I'm not seeing them the same way. I'm not seeing a good guy and bad. Honestly, I'm seeing more likely Charles. Here's the thing: Charles isn't actually a bad guy at heart. But
I don't think either
as
one of them are.
no, but here's what happens. Good people make very bad decisions when they think they're doing the right thing.
Yes.
So you have Eric that sees because he lived that life of he's been in encampments. He's been in prison because of who he is, and then he found out he's a mutant. So it was a bad thing getting worse. And then you have Xavier who he believes, and he said it himself, coexistence is messy. And but then you see in practice what happens. In practice, you see people die because they followed Xavier, and that was Eric's problem with it with Charles. And you remember toward what was it 8? Was it 8 or 9? I think it was episode 8 or 9, where you have that moment where Eric is in front of everybody asking, "Who will you choose?" Because you
Yeah,
already
that
seen
was a
what
good
happens
moment.
when
I
you
forgot
follow,
about that.
right, and you already seen what happens when you follow Charles. And he said, "How many more bones will you leave?" Something like, "How many more bones will you leave behind, leading to his utopia or his vision?" Something like that. And those are words that should hit you, no matter
Yeah.
what you believe. Those are words that should hit you because people are dying all along the way, no matter which side they choose, and they're dying for different reasons. Because Eric, Eric was more realistic. Here's what I gathered. Eric was more realistic about the conflict, and
Mhm.
Charles was more so the idealist.
Yep.
Now, in being realistic, yes, you can still make mistakes. So all I really saw is that Eric was more willing to be honest about the nature of the conflict, that this isn't going to get better. Charles believed it was going to get better. He knows coexistence is messy, and that signals to me that he was aware that people were going to die along the way.
I
So
also felt that Charles knew in doing so that they would have to be basically the punching bag for a long time.
yeah,
And that's a lot to ask anyone to be. Right? Whereas Eric's was like, all right, just join me. You've seen what it's like to be the punching bag for so long.
so
Like,
in other words, in short, Eric would say it's better to sacrifice humans. It seemed like Charles not directly was basically saying it's better to sacrifice mutants, expecting mutants to take. They seem to expect that mutants would have the better tolerance for the suffering, but then
right.
look what happened. Look how things escalated. So I don't really see that anybody is right.
No, and I think like there's got to be a happy medium, right? Because that's usually how it ends up, but I can at least look at both sides. And I know like a lot of times Magneto in the comics is a villain or he's an anti-villain or sometimes even a hero, but like in this situation, you can look at both sides and be like, I fucking get it. Like I can get that you have this massive dream and it worked out in Genosha for a little bit until it didn't. And
Right.
thousands of people died. And they recovered what, one? Emma? I mean, I know they recovered a bunch in the beginning, but like
They recovered very few.
Emma Frost, I think, was the last one that they found because she realized she could do her diamond shield, right? Which I thought was a really cool moment too, a really cool way to save her. But that's not going to be the end of it if they go about it Charles' way. And like, it's kind of fucked up because I gave him shit about killing people, but you can also understand why in a situation like that where it could be necessary. Like,
Well,
as
it's the
some.
thing. Whether or not people find it necessary, the problem is no matter what, people are just trying not to die.
Mhm.
Mutants and humans, for all intents and purposes, for the story, people people in conflict, fictional characters in conflict, human or mutant makes no difference. People in conflict, and people in conflict still just try not to die. You can you can look at what's going on in the Middle East. Everybody talks about sides, and I just say I just don't want people to die. You can't just leave it at that. But the things reach a point where people don't actually allow that question because for some reason they believe the conflict is too real. For some reason they believe the conflict is too real to step back from. That right there is the problem.
And I think like it's easy to say like you don't have to necessarily like people, but just accept them into society. I think that's way too like putting a band-aid on it, right? Because we even see it like with a lot of the stuff today about hate crimes and stuff. It just wouldn't happen that way. But I would like to think so. Like ideally, maybe that's the idealist in me. Let me get this real quick. Punk.
Sure.
I watched the first episode of Dead Boy Detectives yesterday. I enjoyed it. It was cool to see one of my favorite Rachel Summers even then appear in the last episode. Wait, hold on. Wait, did I miss something? Now I gotta Google it.
I don't know, but anyway, that was basically what I gathered it because that was something I was looking for because they did a great job highlighting conflict escalated. They like I said, they didn't do a lot about talking about a conflict started. They tell Eric's story, and Eric's necessary for this because there's no X-Men without Eric.
Oh,
Bobby,
for sure.
no Magneto, no Magnus, Eric, whatever you want to call him. There is no story without him. he has governed the direction of the story since day one. Always has. He's always been the key to the quality of the story told. But that's something I haven't seen yet in any of this. I haven't seen anybody who says let's just not die at all. Charles is actually it is supposed to be Charles. It just
Right.
doesn't work.
It's just not
Right.
practical.
Right.
Oh my gosh, I'm so dumb. I knew that. Mother, however you say her name,
Oksani.
Aksani was
Ascani.
Rachel's number
No,
at the end. Aksani,
no, I read that wrong. Ascani. I read
Askani.
that wrong.
Okay.
He said Mother Ascani and Rachel Summers.
So that was the one reveal at the end. Let's talk about those because there
Mhm.
was a couple things at the end. That was the one reveal I was a little confused about. I don't know if like I missed something in the comics or I didn't know. And then the son, when they show Rachel, I'm gonna call her Rachel because it's too hard for me
Mhm.
to say. They say they see the little boy because they're all sent to different futures, right?
Mhm.
But they see
No, wait,
Cable.
no, one was past. No, one is
Or
past. They
yes,
went to
yes. They
yeah,
all went to different timelines, is what I meant to say.
gotcha.
That's the one. That's the one that confused me because I was like, I feel like this should be a big. I feel like this is probably a big reveal to somebody, and I missed it. But what I did not understand is Cable being there at the end. Like, was that his future?
I'm guessing because remember they gave the baby.
Yeah, to
Remember
Bishop.
in this one? Yeah, so they gave the baby the bishop. So that's my guess. They end up going to that future somehow, or or they're not. They're not. It's not time travel. Maybe they're parallel dimensions. I,
Oh, that could be too. I didn't even consider that.
but I know that they put dates on. The one was AD, one was BC, and then they went back to Apocalypse, which I'm glad they did. I was waiting for that one.
Oh, that one was good. Gary said it was the black girl with white hair in MK, and Magneto only strips the metal of his bones, but Wolverine usually survives because of his healing factor. And that's kind of what I figured. I was just confused. Black girl with white hair. I don't think that was Ashra. Must have just been one of the lackeys. I'm not sure.
So
But
I
thank
don't
you
really
so
know
much,
what to
Gary.
draw. I don't know what to draw from that from the future where Jean and Scott go. Apparently, they go to their son's future,
Which is
and
awesome. I think
which
that's
is
really cool to see Nathan in the future and be able, like, because they don't, like, they had the best intentions, I guess. I mean, it was the only
yeah.
way he was going to survive. But, like, they didn't get to see him growing up. So now they might get that chance.
And what were the dates on that? Because well,
That
well, I
was like
know
3,900 or something.
well, yeah, one was like 3900 BC, so that's when they went back to Apocalypse, which again is cool because now they get to highlight how the conflict starts.
Right.
If
They get
that's the
the
story they
story
want
that
to tell.
you're kind of craving.
Yeah, they get to go further back and hopefully explore how the conflict starts, and a separate parallel story where we get to see how the conflict results. So this is going to be a very fun season two. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'll probably do the same like I did this time. I'll probably just wait for all 10 episodes and then just binge it.
I mean, I
'Cause
don't
I got
blame you.
stuff.
I did the same with the first 9 and then I waited for the finale just because it's really it like I hate doing that like every week shit. I know it's smart, but anonymous, thank you so much. Um wait, that runs together. Did I do that wrong? Even if it's the older version of Rachel, also share the this is Punk. I realize that now. Also share the pic of me and Lenorzan from SiestaCon that I sent you in the chat. With the chat. I forgot to do that the other day. I will do that. Let me bring it up. But so Apocalypse could give us, you know what? It's gonna be after saying all this, it's gonna go back and I'm very curious if it's going to be Apocalypse that actually starts it all.
What I'm interested
Because it might
is
be.
what I'm really interested in seeing is how far they take it from Apocalypse because I've heard two alternate theories. Apocalypse is supposed to be the first mutant, and then there are alternate theories that it's actually Logan, or at least other storylines. But because of his age and his healing, he doesn't actually remember. He just doesn't remember. But
There's
that's what I
punk.
want to see. Do they give us? Wait, which 19-year-old is him?
That's when Punk met the voice of Rogue.
Oh, okay. So that was recent.
Yeah, that's really cool. But so
but anyway,
you mean Apocalypse was the no, shut up, Mo. I know what I mean. I just sometimes don't say it correctly. No, I'm just saying, like, what are we going to see? People find out that Apocalypse is a mutant and him therefore get attacked. Or is he going to start
how
off?
it started, though. Remember, that's how it closed. Remember, because that's how the episode closed. It showed. Remember, the Apocalypse was rescued.
Yes, but you were
Eric
wanting to see what started it. So
Right.
did he start that fight, or was
okay?
Who was the instigator in that?
Well, yeah, that's what I want. What I want to see how they explain those dynamics, the cause and effect relationship. Because especially if you're talking at those times where Apocalypse came from, where he would have been because of mythology, because so much history is surrounded in mythology at that time, you would think that Eric would have been, or excuse me, sorry, Apocalypse. Apocalypse would have been seen as something higher, but it shows people fighting him. So that's something that threw me off.
Well, I mean, I like that because now we're gonna get Apocalypse story, and I know like there's a lot of really good storylines, but I feel like the general public probably only knows Apocalypse from that one. I think it was Bryan Singer movie, right? And that one was done fine, I guess, but like it wasn't great. Like I feel like we're gonna actually get his real story. We're gonna get the beginning and possibly maybe they're trying to do like the beginning and the end or something along those lines. And then the best reveal of all, you did see the card in I think Apocalypse hand, right?
I only remember his weapon.
Oh my
I
god.
missed it because I was looking at the eyes because I wanted to make sure because I figured that because of the timeline and I know where Apocalypse came from, so I was watching closely. Are they going to tell me that's Apocalypse? They need to tell me that because it's got to come. So no, whatever was in his hands, I missed it.
Okay, so I was unsure at first too, but I'm gonna assume that was Apocalypse. Because at first when I saw the hand, I was like, "Is that Thanos?" And then I realized
before we go on to Momo, please email Tristan and then you can email me from there. I'll know it's you because you have a distinct and welcome form of harassment that I've always appreciated.
I know, I love it.
I always know when it's you. So yeah, find me like that. But
Perfect.
anyway, it had to be Apocalypse because that's where he came. That's where he came from. That's how I always understood the story that he originated in Egypt. He was treated as a god. That was always my understanding of it. So that's why it had to be Apocalypse, but I wanted to make sure because I always just thought he was a cool villain. There was something that always stood out to me because we all know that in storytelling, the villain's got to be imposing. And I remember that was one of the last things I saw in the X-Men series in the 90s, that Apocalypse was somebody that nobody could beat. And so stories like that have always grabbed me.
You're missing the point, Joseph.
Hold on, I sidestepped this. I'm sorry. Mo, her email is in the description.
Here, I'll type it in chat.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, let me just let you finish that. No, I didn't see the card. So what are we anticipating? What should we anticipate?
Gambit's coming back. It was one of Gambit's cards.
No,
are you super disappointed right now?
Yeah, I figured he was gonna have to come back because, yeah, he was a regular. You know, they're kind of stuck with him.
Okay, but there is a storyline, from the 90s, I want to say, where Apocalypse brings a dead Gambit back and he becomes like one of his 4 horses. I think he becomes Death.
Oh, I remember that. Okay, I remember that now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I think that's maybe because they follow a lot of stuff, right? Like they pull a lot from comics. So I'm assuming that's kind of where they're going with it, which I don't care. That's awesome. I'm just glad Gambit's back.
I'm not.
Oh my god, I know. She was called Chitaka, and okay, it's Chitaka. I should have known that. And MK, and Cable comes from the Sentinel Future, and Cable comes from the Further with a virus and Apocalypse instead of Sentinels. Okay. All right, that makes sense. Thank you so much, Gary. Black Phoenix. Everyone should read The Adventures of Cyclops in Phoenix trade paperback collections. It's really good. I seen Michael just mentioned one, and I asked him if it was good. A Scotty Sun with art by Gene Ha. Gene Ha's always good. So thank you so much, both of you.
So is he going to have cut off armor at the nipples when Gambit comes back?
Absolutely, he must.
No, he really doesn't. I'd be honestly, no matter what happens, I'm going to be shocked if nobody asks where this white guy came from.
Where the fuck does white guy come from? Anyone know? Come on now. No, I think they'll use the Death or the 4 Horses of the Apocalypse storyline, which will be.
They call him Gringle. Where does Gringle come from? Fucking
he gets like a black outfit, like it looks cool. Gambit is cool. I don't know how you can't like. I feel like I remember everybody liking Gambit, or maybe it was just girls.
No, I think that was always girls. I don't remember anyone ever really talking of Gambit. Even in video games where you had back in days where games were too hard, if you had to do everything hand to hand, everybody wanted a projectile. Everybody picked Gambit. No one gave a shit. Everybody still picked Wolverine.
Oh my
Nobody cared about him. They still don't. But anyway, my thoughts about the show overall, I loved it. Basically from start to finish. It was a lot better than I anticipated. What?
We didn't mention Storm one fucking time.
What for? She's ugly.
Oh my god.
But here's the thing. She got her own story going. Because we're going to spoil it a bit. She becomes human because of the radiation she was shot with. So I guess, briefly she felt useless. She steps away from the X-Men's mansion. And then she goes her own way a little bit, and then eventually gets all that power back. And honestly, it didn't feel important. It felt like filler to me.
See, I can agree a little bit. I liked that Forge picked her up, and I love Storm. I think what her arc was to me was like the acceptance of oneself, right? Because she admitted to Madeline Pryor, even though she thought it was Jean, that she's daydreamed or at least thought about what it would like to be human, right?
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing to admit either, though they kind of made it feel that way. Like, I don't see really a big issue with that, but she had to come to terms with who she was, and then they had the love story between her and Forge, which was really good. And then she got her new outfit, which was awesome. I love her outfit. But yeah, she wasn't I don't feel like she was a main player. She was like a side chick. You know what I mean? Like,
well, that's what I mean. Her story didn't feel consequential. It felt they used her to go a different direction for a while. It was just such a personal direction that it didn't seem like it belonged with the rest. And when everybody else is struggling with a global conflict, and then she just has her own personal struggles. It was just it just felt thrown out there. Like I said, it really felt like filler.
Yeah.
It didn't
feel I know. I don't necessarily. I think you're absolutely right. I wish they would have included her in the. Like, she felt a little bit like, like when what is it called? Women in refrigerators. Like, she was used as a plot device to make Magneto really mad, and then just kind of given her own little treatment to the side.
Yeah, and here's also another thing. I was just so absorbed by the main story that something like that, where that seemed to be the case, where she just had it became a story about accepting who she is.
Mhm.
It it would have been fine separate from this, but because I had expectations based on the main story, that didn't really
It became
it didn't
secondary.
register.
Get it. Yeah, but
It
I
didn't
I mean,
become-
I did like that
yeah.
she was there at the end and she was able to help and Forge was able to help and I liked that and I liked seeing like the Phoenix Force come out, which I also feel like Marvel uses Jean Grey's Phoenix Force as like another plot device. Like everything's really bad. Oh my god, what are we gonna do? Everyone's dead. Oh, Phoenix Force ended. Like, all right, that's what
It,
you're gonna do.
well, for what it's worth, Tristan, you've met like-minded folk in the audience. I'd never met anybody who really cared much for Gambit until you and
Boom! I told
True.
you.
Welcome to the channel, sir. First of all, but no, I just didn't care. I really didn't. I didn't. I never thought Gambit was. We also remember, I said X-Men really turned me away from superheroes because there are so many on screen, and you only care about so many. So you end up having to put up with a bunch of guys you don't care about and you're waiting for the one or two
You
you may
love them
actually like, and
all.
then you
They're
never
like
get to see
Pokemon. You gotta collect them all.
it. But
What'd you think about the
what
cameos?
do you mean?
We saw Spider-Man, we saw Captain America, we saw Iron Man, we saw Morph
It's a
turn
good
into a bunch.
it's a good tease. Yeah, he turned into I can't. It'll come back to me in a minute, but I know that a lot of people they hit up the voice actor for Spider-Man because of
Oh,
that
yeah.
cameo. Here's the thing: as well as they did with this series, I don't think anybody knows what to do with Spider-Man anyway. So I wouldn't look forward to Spider-Man 98 if the people wanted to resurrect that. I wouldn't really be looking forward to it.
Oh, come on. After this show, you don't think there's at least a chance of it being good?
Well, here's the thing: everybody's doing so well with this. If they divide that creative team, you can reasonably expect X-Men to suffer. And I wouldn't tell these guys. Here's the thing: if it's going to be this team, if it had to be this team, I wouldn't tell them to divide their attention because they're doing so good with this.
Yeah. No, I agree.
If they can, sure, if they can find, if the executives can find another team, someone separate from this, and make sure none of these resources are divided like that, and then they can actually find somebody who knows what to do with Spider-Man. Then that I honestly do want to see that, but I don't think anybody knows what to do with Spider-Man.
I mean, there's
Because
hope. I think there's definitely hope. I get what you're saying, but I wish like I'm hoping like the little kid in me is hoping they do like they did in the 90s
that's what it
where
was.
they
He
have
turned
this
into
stuff.
Hulk.
Yeah,
That's what it is. Morph turned into Hulk.
You know what
Okay.
I'd like to see though, which we didn't really get out of this season? You know that scene in the very beginning where you kind of got the Civil War scene where the good guy mutants are running against the bad guy mutants, right? We didn't really get a whole lot of, besides the Magneto, there wasn't a whole lot of like bad mutants introduced. Like we saw Nightcrawler and heard about his mom, but Mystique wasn't there. Destiny wasn't there. So why are we they did a very purposeful job of painting most of the mutants in a very positive light.
Mm-hmm. They did do that. They made sure that we knew these were heroes or heroes of some sort. Like these were not these were not just people on their own just trying to get by, and that's good because characters like that they tend to be they look out for themselves too much to the point
Right.
where you get more of an anti-hero where you don't even know if it's actually a heroic character or
Right.
something like that. So I'm glad they did it like that because it also helps the story. It helps the story, the underlying conflict, which is driving the whole thing. That's a better compliment because then if you go that other route where let's say you just have Logan by himself, and he's just always looking out for number one. And sometimes when writers do stuff like that, they make the who should be the good guy. They make him do something a little bit more cruel than you would expect
Right.
from a good guy, and then what happens from there? The conflict just becomes a setting for basically just a bunch of aimless violence. So it's not the worst thing, but you can't get the same effect like that. You got to keep that underlying conflict alive. So the way they did it, they made sure you knew who the heroes were. The that helps keep the underlying conflict alive in the mind of the listener, so you don't forget what it is you're actually watching. Because that's important to X-Men. That's why I didn't think Storm's story was really important here, because you
Yeah.
have to
It was
separate
very
it.
individualistic.
Yeah, it's too separate from what you were actually watching at first. So it was a step away from the really good stuff. So
And I
like I said,
really
I didn't.
liked, I forgot that I mentioned Nightcrawler. We didn't mention him at all. I really, really give props to the writer, because in today's climate, it would be very easy to keep the religious aspects out, and they didn't. I thought that was, I mean, that's integral to
But that's his
him.
character, though.
Yeah,
That's his
that's what
character.
I'm saying. But
Yeah.
current day, come on now.
Well, yeah, they threw him. They put all kinds of things together. I get what you mean, because sensitivity of audiences. So it's better just not to mention these things. Here, if I were a writer, there was some things I wouldn't put in a story. Some things I definitely wouldn't put, and I also wouldn't know what to do with it anyway. You specifically, you call for more homosexual, bisexual characters. I don't know what to do with anyway, because I don't know how to make somebody's sexual preferences like a guiding force in a story. And
I mean,
historically,
hold on.
heterosexuality helps
There, well, that
because
was there though, right? That was there with Jean and Cyclops.
yeah, it was there,
That was their
but
driving
this
factor.
no, but they had a kid, and that's what I was saying. That's really the only time I can think of
Yeah,
when two
I
people
get
have a
that.
kid of their own. Right now, if you're going to do the other stuff, you're going to have homosexuals, bisexuals. Depending on what you have. Let's say you had a homosexual couple, male or female, whatever. Then you have to go to a science fiction setting. You have to get a clone involved. You have to do what is that called? The I'm trying not to say test tube baby, because I'm trying not to minimize. But
Adopt
no, but it's test tube baby.
surrogate.
You know what I mean. Surrogate, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You have to do something like that. Yeah, and that's fine. But then it's just obviously it's just more natural when it's a male female couple. So that's really the only time in
Oh my
storytelling.
god, that's not offensive at all.
What? What did I do? What?
Just
What?
kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, but
I'm
they
just
could
saying
bring in
it's easier.
uh oh my god, North Star, and do the wedding scene, right? That's a famous scene from the X-Men comics. Like, and have that be a big part of it.
Um,
I mean,
sure.
they had a cameo of North Star.
I didn't care. And here's another thing. I didn't like Sunspot. It's just such a terrible
Oh,
thing.
Sunspot is such a
It's a
okay. I
horrible name.
loved the episode with the video games. Absolutely loved that episode. Sunspot is such a little bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah,
my
I
mommy
didn't really
will
like
pay
it.
for it. Shut the fuck up with your mom.
I have my own jet. I'll let you drive it. Oh.
God, and I know that's his character, but he was a character I loved to hate. Like, Jubilee was fucking awesome. Jubilee has the cutest powers ever. Like, if I were to be a mutant, I would want to have cute firework things, right? Like, it's adorable and it's super strong. And then she picks to have a crush on the most spoiled brat in the world. Fuck that. She's
Yeah.
better than that.
Yeah, someone I don't know. Someone had to force that to work. I guess I don't know. Their
Yeah,
relationship didn't feel important to me either.
not at all.
I think that
And
yeah,
some
I
of their
think that was
storyline too, right? Like the one point where they went to the mom's and the mom was like, I'm going to be doing a banquet for Genosha. And like, that's a good thing, right? You're giving help to mutants. And Jubilee gets all up in arms about it. I'm like, hold on, what? She's
into
trying
it,
to help mutants, and you're like,
and
fuck you, bitch. Let's do some retail therapy.
to address our good friend Mo Moon. No, I actually think Sunspot and Gambit both belong in hell.
Oh my God, you guys are all wrong.
But anyway, I don't know whatever they're trying to do with that. I think you're going to have to find out in season 2. In fact, where did they go? Did they stay in the standard timeline?
I believe no. Yeah, they were on the ground. They were on the ground watching.
Oh, that's right. Okay,
Because
yes,
they had those things on, and then they were running, and they were on the ground with Forge.
Well, okay, then we're not going to know what they're good for until season 2. But I wasn't seeing anything in that. Honestly, like I said, I hated Sunspot.
Yeah, and I feel like Jubilee on her own would have had a lot of potential. I don't know. It could just be I'm very like biased towards her adorable powers. But like she's cool. She's like the spunky, like cute teenager, like what she turned 18 in the one episode. That plays she feels the most almost normal, like Gen Zer type character. And I loved it. It worked. Not Gen Zer. I know this takes in place in the 90s. Millennial. Fucking millennials.
Yeah. So basically, like she was presented as something not important.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Because she's not.
No, not at all.
No, she's not. No. So yeah. So at the same time, so her and Sunspot belong together. Surprised it wasn't her and Gambit, but somebody had to die, and I'm fine. I'm glad it happened at all. I wish it didn't take so long. They could have killed him.
It was only 5 episodes. Come on.
They could have done it in episode 1. It didn't have to be on Genosha.
Oh my God. Stop.
Anyway, so like I said, overall, very satisfied with it. Eagerly looking forward to the next season. I really hope it doesn't come out in 2026. I hope that's just talk. You know, were they set back by the writer's strike? Is that something?
Maybe, but that does feel like it was when the show got announced. I'm pretty sure we knew it was okay for 2 seasons, so it feels like they would have worked on it quicker. I know it's already written, so it must just be an animation issue. I'm assuming. I don't know.
And that could be, or maybe they'll do more episodes for season 2. I don't know. But I really hope it's not that far, even if it's early 2026. That just seems like that just
2 whole years.
Yeah, and yeah. So, well, if that's the truth, so be it. We gotta wait. You gotta wait. But either way, when it comes out, I'll be ready for it. I'll be looking forward to it.
Oh my gosh! All right, guys, we are going to wrap up. Joseph, I just sent you a picture that you're going to absolutely adore. I promise you.
In my email?
Yeah, I sure did.
What did you do?
You are going to love it.
It's that bad?
No, stop it.
No, it's no. I think it's worse.
It's Gambit with a shirt that says "slut."
Yeah, that just brings out everything I hate about him even more.
I fucking love it. Oh my God.
You just had to fuck with me before it was over.
Fucking Raymond knew. He said it's Gambit.
You chose me as an enemy. I just want them all to know this.
Oh my God.
Close off the stream today.
It's so good.
Well, anyway, yeah, this was a fun review. This was just a fun series. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, I'm glad you liked it.
Forward to the next one. I loved it. Otherwise, loved it. Like I said, Gambit's dead. Good story. Bottom line, everything. It's great for the kids, guys. Just watch it over and over.
Yeah, definitely. And Mo, I got your email. I'll send you Joseph's right after stream here. So be expecting that. All right, guys. We will see you later. Bye-bye. Thank you again, Joseph.
No problem. Have a good one, guys.
Bye, guys.